Cool, got 5 minutes, big topic. We've been working on this for a while, so I'm going to go fast. So either tune out or tune in. All right, who here loves managing their infrastructure with spreadsheets? No? You don't manage infrastructure? That's fine. No worries. There are lots of people out there with very real-world applications that have things like lawnmowers and light bulbs and servers that require spreadsheets to look after them. And many of them come to us and say, well, we need you to build us a monitoring solution, or we want to manage it or automate it and those kind of things. And we say, well, what have you got? And they go, here's a spreadsheet. And we go, well, this doesn't make any sense. The columns don't line up. The bits and pieces don't work. So we've came across this tool, Netbox, written by the guys out of DigitalOcean, the hosting company, and now supported by a commercial organization called NS1, and use that to start to drive monitoring and automation as a source of truth. Fill the role of CMDB, but really for infrastructure. So importantly, Netbox does what it says on the tin. I need to evaluate open source projects based on a number of factors. Do they do what they say they do? Are they healthy? Do they have good revision control on GitHub and release cycles and an active community and the right price and all that sort of stuff? And Netbox ticks all of those boxes. So you can be rest assured. Live demo time. You can go to demo.netbox.dev and check it out for yourself. There's a whole data model here around how organizations work. Wow, that's really cut off. Sorry about that. How do I drag that over a little bit? Organizations, sites, devices. A device lives in a rack. That rack has a site that can have interfaces, VLANs, tags, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the data and metadata and the data model matches exactly how you'd expect the data center to work. Devices go in a rack, they have a rack unit, they get plugged into a switch port that has VLANs, it supports VRFs, HSRP, all the things that you would normally do in a modern data center, in a way that also has a completely full-featured REST API. So every time you want to, sorry, I'm struggling to see what's going on there. If you want to see how it all works from the API point of view, you just chuck /API in there, and I cannot read that at all, so we won't worry about it. I think it might be down the bottom, which is again cut off. That's okay. But all of these things have a very full-featured REST API for both reading and writing and updating, and that is really the key point here when it comes to determining why we should use this tool and why it makes sense for automation. So the next thing we've been working on is integrating it with monitoring. So we enter the data to Netbox, we pull it all out of those spreadsheets, chuck it in Netbox, and then end up with, we've written a tool that connects Isinga Director and Netbox, so it can poll the API of Netbox, pull the devices out, and automatically create monitoring objects, services, plumb in the groups, notification groups from contacts. All those things get plumbed in right from Netbox. So an engineer doesn't have to actually configure the monitoring at all. They simply document the device in a structured way, and that automatically starts to get monitored. Rack a device, say how it works. What do you know? You've got a ping check. You've got to check depending on their, if it's Windows, all those things. Prometheus also has a service discovery plugin for Netbox, which allows Prometheus to connect to it, grab metrics if needs be, but also then discover devices that can then go out and grab more metrics off those devices. Ansible also has great support for Netbox. Ansible can support Netbox for both dynamic inventory, so that is, I have a group of devices in Ansible. Let's call it, hell, you can even put all the cloud, EC2 instances, all those things. Let's say network switches at a certain site, and all the dynamic groups that belong to a device, its site, its rack unit, its manufacturer, all those things become groups in Ansible, and you can target them using your playbooks. And then on top of that, Ansible has a whole bunch of other modules that let you update Netbox from those devices. So the pattern is you add the device to Netbox, you connect to it with Ansible, you can enrich that documentation and go, right, well, what are the VLANs for this port? How does that all work? What operating system does this virtual machine have? I've got its IP address, query the VMware API, whatever it might be, and have Ansible update your documentation as well. And so we're all sort of singing from the same song sheet there. On top of that, we've got integration with monitoring working out really nicely as well. Netbox gets pulled through to Isinga for monitoring. Ansible then connects to both of those in terms of rolling out monitoring agents and then reconfiguring and using the extra fields in Netbox to specify things like check thresholds and all those things. Importantly, Netbox has a whole series of arbitrary custom fields and even config context for JSON data that allows you to set thresholds. And we've done a lot of work with our customers where they can implement a device, add a bunch of metadata related to how the services that device offers. Let's say it's a virtual hosts in Nginx or the disk space required for this particular machine, and express that in JSON and have that automatically flow through to the monitoring system to be then checked with no configuration of the monitoring itself. You blow away everything, all the config in the monitoring system, wait 15 minutes, it all comes back again. There are some scaling issues when you get to 100,000 plus devices. We've been working on that as well. So how does it actually work out for organizations? And this is really the point I wanted to give for this talk, is a lot of network engineers and system administrators and developers, they all sort of silo their information about how it's going to work. You want a firewall rule, you have to ask them. You want an application to do a certain thing, you have to ask them. You want some monitoring, you have to ask some other team. And the idea is that at least we're all working from the same single database. And we've found that there's resistance inside organizations. You say to the network engineer, hey, you need to get rid of those spreadsheets, mate, and put all your stuff in here. And he's like, and my cold dead hands kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I think once you get working through all the teams, you can affect real sort of cultural change and improve your actual organizational agility, because you're all talking from the one place. And you've got monitoring and automation that uses those things, which reinforces the incentive to use Netbox. So you have this closed circuit where it's not just a tool you put data in, it's also actually something you get a real organizational effect out of. And that's self-referential to some extent, because the monitoring's broken, well, the host is down, well, you just got the IP address wrong in Netbox. Oh, we've corrected that, now it's actually broken. So there's a whole kind of feedback loop there where you know that it's more right. That's all I had there for that talk, sorry about that. So yeah, I just wanted everyone to store their truth somewhere, and if anyone's got any questions, let me know. Questions? No? Great.